Good evening. Buenas noches. I'm Maite Junco, Senior Vice Chancellor for Communications and Marketing at the City University of New York. And I want to welcome you to the inaugural CUNY Immigration Assistance Program webinar series sponsored by CUNY Citizenship Now, a program we are so proud of. This monthly series will keep our community informed about changes in federal immigration policy and resources available. For the past 30 years, Citizenship Now, the nation's largest university-based legal assistance program, has provided free, high-quality, and confidential immigration legal services to thousands of individuals each year, regardless of income or background. The program supports pathways to U.S. citizenship, family unification, humanitarian relief, and long-term stability, and has long been a beacon of hope and empowerment for New York City's immigrant communities. In February, Chancellor Matos Rodriguez convened the Immigration Resource Working Group, co-chaired by myself and Executive Vice Chancellor Alicia Albero, to monitor the impact of immigration policy changes on the university community and keep leadership updated. The group includes CUNY leaders with expertise in serving immigrant communities. Over the last few months, the group has created a webpage to keep our community informed and has shared timely information via the CUNY weekly letters. The group also shared with the Chancellor's Office recommendations and strategies to pursue further funding to provide legal support. And already, through general support from the Petrie Foundation and the Robin Hood Foundation, we've launched a rapid response legal resource support program to help guide our students and employees through moments of crisis and connect them to the support they need. At a time when immigration policies shift with alarming speed and uncertainty, we understand that many of our community members are concerned. Please know that CUNY is committed to supporting all members of our community, regardless of immigration status. We're committed to responding to these new challenges using tools like tonight's webinar, which we hope will serve as a valuable resource. And now it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, Monique Francis, the Interim Executive Director of Citizenship Now. Monique started her own CUNY journey as an international student, and today she leads our efforts to meet this moment. Thank you everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you, VC Junco, and welcome once again to all of the folks who are joining us. I want to give thank you to the Chancellor and the Chancellery for the support that we've gotten over the years, particularly with starting off this new initiative. All righty. Just want to go over the disclaimer regarding the information and education that you're going to be receiving tonight. This information is provided by our esteemed attorneys at CUNY Citizenship Know. The information is only for educational purposes, and it does not constitute legal advice. It also does not create an attorney-client relationship. If you want to ask questions, there is a Q&A at the bottom. Please make sure that you're not asking immigration-related questions to your specific case. We will be sharing throughout the evening ways in which you can request a consultation from the attorneys under this program. Please make sure that you be mindful and respectful of everyone who's in this space. So a little bit about CUNY Citizenship Now. This program started around 30 years ago. We currently provide pro se legal assistance to the CUNY community, and through funding from our partners at the New York City Council, we also provide services to New York City constituents. We currently operate 4 full-time centers at Medgar Evers, York, Queens College, and CUNY in the Heights. We also provide part-time once-a-month services at LaGuardia, BMCC, Hunter, Queensboro, and Lehman College. In addition to these CUNY-based operations, we also have 40 council member-based sites that we operate, providing one-on-one services to the community members. One of the things that we're known for as an organization is our large-scale group processing events, and these are to help people with their citizenship applications. Annually, we serve around 8,000 to 10,000 people who are all on the path to obtaining U.S. citizenship. So as Maite mentioned, thanks to the generous support from the Carolyn Milton Petrie Foundation and the Robin Hood Foundation, the university is expanding the scope of services that we offer to the CUNY community. The CUNY Immigration Assistance Project is a free legal resource for impacted members of the CUNY community who have been affected by the policy and the executive orders that have come out since January 20th. Leading this effort is supervising attorney Eleanor Drucker-Romani. She's been with CUNY Citizenship now for more than 10 years. And prior to joining CUNY, she had her own private practice where she's been an attorney for more than 30 years. Eleanor's role in CUNY Citizenship now, she's a supervising attorney. She is currently based at our Queens College Center, and she also is the attorney that provides services at LaGuardia Community College. So to present to you tonight, we have two attorneys from CUNY Citizenship Now, Eleanor Drucker-Romani and Sean Roman, and I'm going to turn this over to them to share with you guys.
Thank you, Monique. I'm going to continue to speak about the CUNY Immigration Assistance Project. First and foremost, we give consultations to the CUNY community. The CUNY community is all currently enrolled students, faculty, and staff. We give consultations on just about any subject that touches on immigration, but specifically international or domestic travel, loss or change of immigrant status, F1 student visa revocation, if your F1 visa has been revoked, or if you need to apply for reinstatement, you need to contact us to speak to us so we can work it out. Termination of immigration statuses such as parole or TPS. This is a very current topic and a topic that's changing immediately. Every day there's something else going on, so you need to speak to us. USCIS or Department of State processing delays. That's a very common problem, and we'll discuss that and try to overcome that problem for you. And of course, immigrant interview preparation or court immigration preparation. And as I stated, these services are free and they're for all currently enrolled students, faculty, and staff. In addition to the consultation, this project also has a rapid response component. How can we help? We provide support and orientation to CUNY students, faculty, and staff who are detained. Thanks to this program, we have a 24-hour active link that is active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That comes directly to my email, and I will respond within 24 hours. So what can we do? We can help you locate and provide information on how to contact the person who's detained. We can provide information on detention and the court process. We also can provide information on how to prepare for a bond hearing or securing a bond if applicable. You might ask why it says if applicable. It's important to note that not everyone who is detained is eligible for a bond. This is something that we will discuss later in this presentation. So we can help with the bond hearing preparation. The first thing we're going to have to do is review the detainee's immigration history and criminal history and advise whether the detainee might be subject to mandatory detention. If we determine that the detainee is not subject to mandatory detention, then our attorneys will assist and review documentation that would be necessary to present for a bond hearing. To determine if a detainee is eligible for bond, the immigration judge looks at two factors. Number one, the flight risk of the detainee, and number two, the detainee's danger to the community. These are the factors that the immigration judge will consider. First, they'll look at the detainee's immigration history. Is there a history of failure to report or appear in court? Is there a history of past immigration violations? The judge will also look to see how long the detainee has lived in the United States. Did they just come here last month, or have they been here 25 years and established ties? Do they have family here? Do they have a spouse, children? Is the spouse a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident? Are the children U.S. citizens or permanent residents? They'll look to see whether the detainee is gainfully employed, and they will also look to see if he owns any property, he or she. Another factor that the immigration judge will consider is the financial resources and the ability to post the bond. Immigration bonds start at a minimum of $1,500, and we've seen them go up to $10,000 and beyond. The other factor, or another factor the judge will look at, is whether the detainee has any immigration relief available, and whether that judge believes that that's a winnable case. And finally, if there's any criminal history, then the judge will review the nature of the criminal history and whether the detainee shows evidence of rehabilitation. So we just spoke about detention. I hope to never have to speak to you about that. But anybody who's subject to detention needs to have an emergency plan. It's important to keep documents, birth certificates, immigration documents in a safe place where someone, a friend or a family member, has access to them. It's best if you don't keep them in your house, but you need to have those original documents accessible. You should also collect documentation that shows you've been in the US for at least 2 years. Why do you want to do that? There's something called expedited removal, which is something that's in flux, but it used to be, and hopefully it will remain to be, that if you can prove that you've been in the US for at least 2 years, you're not subject to expedited removal. We'll discuss what expedited removal is later on in this presentation. So what documentation can you use? You can use bills, your children's school records, taxes, birth certificates of children born in the US, basically anything that has a date, an address, and your name. You have to memorize the number of a friend, family member, or attorney you can call if you're detained. If you note here, it says memorize, not have it in your phone. And in terms of those documents, not have them in your phone. The phone is probably the first thing that's going to be taken from you. If you're detained, you need to have that in paper, old-fashioned paper. You have to have money available for bond, and you have to have the ability to access money outside the US in case of deportation. So if you've ever had any contact with immigration, USCIS, Department of Homeland Security, you should have what's called an A number, or now a lot of people call it a USIS number. It would appear on any immigration document. It is now a number that has 9 digits. Previously, it had 8 digits. So if you have an old A number, USCIS now adds a 0 in front of the 8 digits. If you're a parent, you have to have a plan for your minor children. There's 2 easy ways to do that, or we have 2 forms here that are easy to help you with that issue. One is issued by the New York State Office of Children and Family Services. By that form, you designate a person in parental relationship. You don't give away your parental rights, but you allow the child, the person you designate to care for your child, to maybe get school records, help with minor medical issues, speak to the teachers, those sort of things. This form that's issued by New York State is a little complicated, and it needs to be signed in front of a notary if you want it to be valid for more than 60 days. And on the next slide, we reference a slide from New York Legal Assistance Group, NILAG, which is a little shorter, a little easier to provide. And both these documents are non-judicial agreements. between the parent and the designated person. It commences whenever you want. Some of them can commence when something happens upon an event, such as being detained. Some can commence on a state specific. It's up to you what you want to put there. The designation can be revoked orally or in writing. And I said it was a non-judicial agreement. What does that mean? Non-judicial agreement means outside the court, so nobody has to go into court. So the designee does not have to have any legal status in the US and has no duty to support. Here you see the first page of that application. The other thing I'd like to talk about before I pass this over to Sean is that a CUNY professor by the name of Joe Rosenberg, he has written extensively on this subject, and you can find his information on their web page. Now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Sean. He's going to talk about updates.
Thank you so much, Eleanor. Hello, everyone. It is my honor and pleasure to join you today. To say that recent immigration policy and enforcement is in flux is a huge understatement. It seems like every couple of days we have this back and forth of executive actions that is countered by court rulings by people who are suing the government for the executive actions. And what this has resulted in is like this near constant change, constant state of change with uncertainty and instability for immigrants. And what this instability creates is significant challenges and anxiety, not only for them, not only for the immigrants and their families that are directly affected, but also in many cases, their employers and even us as legal professionals. So these legal updates we provide for you here are the most impactful of these immigration policy changes since the start of this administration. Okay, so first we have the Laken-Riley Act. This was passed on January 29th, 2025. And what this is a major scaling up of immigration enforcement, where in the years prior to mandatory detention was prioritized for those who committed violent crimes. Okay, so but what Laken-Riley did or does is it expands the detention to those who have committed, those who entered without a valid entry and who were charged with, arrested, convicted, or even admitted to burglary, theft, larceny, shoplifting. These are crimes that in past years would not be priority for ICE or USCIS for detainment. What the Senate did, that was the House version before it got, and then what the Senate did was add assault of a law enforcement officer and any crime involving deadly or serious bodily harm. So now, this is the law now, and if you read this closely, you don't even need to be convicted of these things. Just merely being arrested or charged would subject somebody who's in this country without a valid entry to mandatory detention. Now we want everybody to be cautious, of course. It isn't only those crimes or charges. Even minor crimes or infractions can seriously affect immigration status, despite not falling under this act. So, for example, jumping the subway turnstile, or not paying your bus fare, or public drunkenness. This administration has sought to enforce these very minor issues to a major immigration status to detain people and deport people. Even crimes expunged from somebody's record can result in negative immigration consequences. Eleanor, in her presentation, mentioned expedited removal. And basically what this is expedited removal is a process where any Homeland Security official, even a minor official, can order you deported without you ever having a chance to present your case in court. Okay? It's as bad as it sounds. And prior to this administration, prior to January 21, 2025, this policy of expedited removal was focusing mostly on the 100 miles within our borders. So 100 air miles of the international land border. And before January 21st, what an individual had to do is to save themselves from expedited removal was simply prove that they were in the country for only 14 days prior to apprehension. Now, what the expansion did is it removed the 100-mile barrier, and now USCIS's Homeland Security is enforcing expedited removal to the entire country. So not only within the 100 miles are those who entered without inspection at jeopardy. Now, anywhere in the country, USCIS has expanded this enforcement. Okay, so if you are, sorry, one more, can we go back to the previous slide? All right, now, in addition to the expanded territory, individuals now need to prove that they were here in the United States for 2 years prior to apprehension. So this ties back to what Eleanor mentioned in her slide about it is vital that those who have entered without inspection, who entered without inspection more than 2 years ago, be able to prove that, and very quickly. So those kinds of documents need to be available and ready to go. Okay. All right. One of the major immigration policy changes of this administration has been the elimination of humanitarian parole for those. It's what was called the humanitarian parole for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. What this was is a program under which the citizens of these 4 countries and their immediate family members could be paroled into the United States for a period of up to 2 years if a family member or a person in the U.S. agreed to financially support them. And this program allowed up to 30,000 people per month from the 4 countries to enter the United States. And by January 22nd, when it was terminated, a total of 532,000, approximately 532,000 were granted authorization to enter the United States. Okay, now, so this does affect well over 500,000 people. And now, since it's been terminated, DHS has been, since June 12th, when it was ruled, when the termination was upheld in court, DHS began sending termination notices to these parolees. Okay. Elimination of TPS as well. Okay, so temporary protective status was a program that provided lawful immigration status and work authorization to migrants who couldn't return to their countries because of their countries of origin or their home country due to war or other disasters. Okay. Now, this program was created in 1990, and the benefits of this program are to that the individuals who were here then that could not go back home were not removable from the United States while TPS was still valid, and they were not detainable by DHS on the basis of his or her immigration status. They were also eligible. They are also eligible for employment authorization and for travel authorization. Okay, and the last official trustworthy number was approximately 1.1 million people living with TPS in the United States. And as we'll show on the next chart, TPS has then been terminated for several countries. Okay. And that's the urgent update for TPS. TPS has been under attack by this administration. This administration has made clear its intent to revoke TPS protections, regardless of whether it is now safe to return to these countries that are still experiencing war and other disasters, and regardless of whether it's fair or unjust to uproot these TPS holders from their lives and working lawfully here in the United States. Here is a chart. It is a chart that we've compiled, and things are changing based almost every other day. This is the list as of September 3rd. We are going to have an update of this list on the CUNY Citizenship Now website, and we're having to update it almost weekly these days. Okay. I'm not going to go through every country. I want to say those that seem to have undergone most of the major changes of the last couple of days and weeks are Haiti, and now in Haiti, the termination that was originally scheduled for September 2nd was blocked by the federal court, and those from Haiti, for now, enjoy TPS protection through February of 2026. Venezuela is another country that's undergoing some significant, litigation and change. So that's all also changing, and we expect to have an update on Venezuela in the next coming days. Okay. Uh, all right. The travel ban. Now we got a lot of questions regarding the travel ban by the public at large, but also a lot of of our community family members and staff and about whether it's safe to travel to these countries and back. So let's talk about the travel ban. This travel ban, the latest travel ban, went into effect on June 9th of 2025. It impacts 19 countries, 12 with a full entry suspension and 7 with partial. Okay. The 12 countries, and I'm just going to read them quickly: Afghanistan, Myanmar, Burma, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran. There's an exception for Iran for those who are undergoing ethnic and religious persecution. Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. So that is a full travel ban from these 12 countries. For the 7 countries that are experiencing a partial travel ban, it gets a little bit more particular. The 7 countries are Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Now, travelers from these nations generally will not be able to get a visa, and this includes new immigrant visas, so those applying for green cards, visitors visas, so B1 or B2 visas, so which are visitors visas for either business or pleasure. Those that are student visas, both on the F student designation for scholarly study, and M student vocation for trade study and vocational study, those are no longer available for these 7 countries. And finally, those under the J exchange visitor for work study or worker study exchange programs are not eligible to travel to the United States. However, for these countries, there is an exception. Okay, and for all of the countries, there is an exception. Okay, lawful permanent residents and green card holders, for now, are being able to re-enter the country. So we don't expect the travel ban to significantly affect those who are lawful permanent residents. The intention is to allow certain diplomatic and official visas. If you are a diplomatic or official visa holder, you are categorized by one of these: A1, A2, C2 and 3, G1, 4, and NATO 1 through 6. And also, there are exceptions to immigrant visas granted to immediate relatives of U.S. citizens. Okay, those are spouses of U.S. citizens, unmarried children under 21 of U.S. citizens, and parents of U.S. citizen children. Notice here there is no exception for immigrant relatives of green card holders. Okay. Continuing our exceptions, we do expect U.S. citizens to be continuing to be able to adopt children, and the adoptions should not be subject to the travel ban. Those who are residents or citizens of a country with a travel ban in effect, if you are a dual citizen, you should be able to travel using the passport from a country that's not on the list. Okay, if you are a dual citizen of a country not on the list. Special immigrant visas for government employees and those from Afghanistan. There are special immigrant visas for specifically named people that that should not be subject to the travel ban. Those involved in major sporting events, and I know we have the World Cup coming and a few other major global sporting events coming to the U.S. In end of 2025 and start of 2026. For example, the World Cup, the Olympics, and other sporting events designated by the Secretary of State. We don't expect the travel ban to affect these athletes and these participants. And finally, those who the Attorney General will designate as where their presence is needed here in this country for U.S. National interests. For example, witnesses in criminal proceedings, we expect the travel ban not to apply to them. All right, so that's the major policy updates. And I'd like to just reiterate that those who are affected by any of these, or if you have any questions, please contact us and we're happy to provide you an important legal consult for you. Okay, so I'm going to turn it now over back for our continuation of the seminar for resources for immigrant students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Eleanor. For the folks who are dropping questions in the chat, we are going to answer those questions at the end. Now I would like to introduce University Director for Immigrant and Undocumented Students, Dr. Cynthia Carvajal.
Thank you, Monique. Hi, everyone. My name is Cynthia Carvajal. I oversee our Undocumented Immigrant Student Programs Department. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the resources that are available for immigrant students. As we get started in this conversation, I want to emphasize that anyone can attend CUNY campuses regardless of immigration status. CUNY does not consider immigration status as part of admissions for our campuses. So please be sure to remind folks of that, especially with the executive orders, legislations that come through. Oftentimes folks may misinterpret what is coming out and will assume that these types of privileges are being taken away as well, but that's not the case. And so in the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about what our office does. So we are a centralized CUNY department that supports our 25 campuses to develop more resources and update policies that may impact students in various precarious immigration statuses. Currently, we also work with 4 immigrant student success centers that I'll be sharing a little bit more information about. And offer additional services across our CUNY system, especially to build up similar centers at all of our campuses. Our office also trains immigrant liaisons that I'll also talk a little bit about later in order to help all of our students across our undergraduate and graduate campuses. I want to share this website as kind of an initial source of support and resources for anyone who may be here. CUNY.edu/immigrant has resources not only for students, but also for educators, faculty, and staff. Some notable ones are listed here, but in particular for students, a newly admitted student checklist that was created with the liaisons and centers involved, as well as some clarity on some policies that may be impacting students who are navigating our educational system in higher education, such as fingerprinting and clinical placements. For educators, we have trainings and workshops, as well as guidance on how to provide paid opportunities through stipends and fellowships for students regardless of immigration status. I want to highlight kind of some of our notable CUNY-based programs. So the Immigrant Student Success Centers are spaces at our campuses that are full-time staffed, meaning that there is a immigration content expert who oversees the centers. They do trainings at the campus, programming opportunities, facilitate stipends, and currently they are located at John Jay College, Brooklyn College, City College, and Hunter College. As I said, we're hoping to build up these resources a little bit more, but you'll see here some Instagram handles so you can connect with them via social media. In addition to centers, we also have student success initiatives. These aren't necessarily like staffed by someone who is completely dedicated to this work, but it is made up of very passionate and committed individuals who are seeking to build up resources like a center at the campuses. So this is Queens College, Gutman, and Baruch College. And again, you'll see here their social media as well as their website. I know that we only named 7 campuses, of which only one of them is a community college. However, the chancellor for CUNY asked each of the campus presidents to identify an immigrant liaison that would be attending monthly meetings with me, receiving updated information from Eleanor and Monique in order to properly support students, even if this is not their full-time role. And so each of our CUNY campuses has an immigrant success liaison, at least one, but largely 2 or more. And you can find them at cuny.edu/immigrant. One thing I want to emphasize, in addition to the CUNY admissions policy, as I talked about earlier, is that there are also state education laws that are available for immigrants. And what I really want to emphasize is, regardless of the current federal administration, these state laws stand because they're New York state laws. And states have sovereignty as to what legislation they can put on, especially as it relates to tuition and in-state tuition. And so this is what I'll be covering in the next couple of slides. So one in particular is in-state tuition. And so in-state tuition is for individuals who qualify for tuition based off someone who has residency in the state of New York or in the city of New York. This is available for individuals who don't have a formal status, or who may be undocumented or have recently applied for asylum but are still waiting to hear back, in addition to other statuses that I'll get to before. But I'm separating those with formal status versus those who don't have formal status because of the eligibility. So what you'll see here is, what does in-state tuition do for undocumented individuals? Like I said, it provides eligible students access to in-state tuition regardless of immigration status. They have to meet certain requirements. And so if someone does not have a formal status, the eligibility as listed here is that they have to attend at least 2 years of high school in the state of New York and graduate, or they can have a GED from the state of New York or a high school equivalency. And they have to apply for attendance at an institution within 5 years of receiving a diploma. They also have to submit an affidavit. I don't want to get too much into that because the campuses can support a little bit more with that. But this is the eligibility for someone without formal status. And so in the next slide, we'll be referencing the eligibility for individuals who have some kind of status that provides them with an employment authorization document. So an example of this is DACA, TPS, asylum pending, U visa, T visa. And so with those types of statuses, an individual can also access in-state tuition so long as they meet certain requirements, again listed here, which are essentially the same as US citizens and green card holders. So 12 months of residency in the state of New York for our 4-year campuses, and 6 months of residency in the city of New York for 2-year campuses. What I also want to share is a state tuition aid that is available via the New York State DREAM Act. So who qualifies for this? They have to meet one of the eligibility requirements listed here. So U visa, T visa, DACA, undocumented, asylum pending, or other pending statuses. PRUCOL stands for permanently residing under color of law, and it's another way of saying an individual with an employment authorization document. What does the New York State DREAM Act do? It provides access to Excelsior Scholarship, to tuition assistance program like TAP, and other state administered scholarships, such as opportunity programs, which includes ASAP, CD, and SEEK. The eligibility for the New York State DREAM Act, similar to in-state tuition with some differentiation, but they have to have attended at least 2 years of high school in New York and graduate, or receive a New York State high school equivalency, or receive in-state tuition at one of our campuses. And they must do this within 5 years of receiving any of those. Some additional financial aid is a scholarship called the Dream US Scholarship. Oftentimes they'll refer to this as the Pell Grant for undocumented students. It covers tuition fully, gives students access to a very generous stipend, as well as access to internship opportunities that are paid. You'll see that all of our CUNY undergraduate colleges have access to this, and 3 SUNY campuses at Farmingdale, Old Westbury, and University of Albany. An individual must be undocumented or have DACA or TPS, and they have to have arrived in the US before November 1st, 2019, and also have to have arrived before the age of 16. So you'll notice here, unfortunately, this is not for recently arrived folks. This is for someone who's been here for quite a few years. I know I kind of breezed through some of this information. I want to make sure that folks also know that we have this information on our website. So if you go to any of these 3 links, whether it's cuny.edu/thedreamus/NYSDA/immigrant, you'll be able to find a lot of information related to both the private scholarship I referenced, state aid at CUNY, and applying to in-state tuition. I want to make sure to share our email address here as well as our Instagram, which you'll also see in my background. Please reach out to us if you need any information. Check out our website. And if anything is not there that you'd like us to share with you, please reach out either via email, our social media, or our intake form that's on our website.
Thank you, Dr. Carvajal. I am going to stop sharing the screen. We have a number of questions. Sean, are you still there? A number of them asking, who is eligible for the services? So Eleanor, I want to pivot back to you to just go over from the start. CUNY students, faculty, and staff?
CUNY students, faculty, and staff, yes, Moni, that's who's eligible. Recent alumni, and in some instances, don't kill me, Monique, immediate relatives of students.
Alrighty, so in short, if you have a CUNY First ID, whether it's an employee, a faculty, a staff member, we have a couple of folks who are saying that they have DACA, this is available to you. And to request a consultation with one of the attorneys in this program, you can go to CUNY Citizenship Now homepage, and there is a request to call back, but we will actually put that also at the very end. There was a question that asks about the Supreme Court decision that came out regarding race and language as grounds for detention. Sean, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's frankly an awful decision, and it's still not the final decision. This is going back to the lower courts and then probably back up to the Supreme Court on the constitutionality of it. But for right now, yes, ICE is profiling, and they've been given the green light to profile. How this will play out over the long term and how our legal advice and those legal advice around the country will be impacted, we're going to have to wait and see. It's a little bit too early to predict that, but it's awful, and it's going to be ugly, and we're going to be fighting it every step of the way. That's all.
Eleanor, has there been any indication that there is going to be a lift on the travel ban or a loosening of the countries that are banned from entering the United States?
Not to my knowledge, no, not at all. If anything, it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Does the travel ban on Venezuela impact people who are receiving or applying for SIDGE? I think this is a case-specific question, but I think
I have a general answer to this. Those who have SIDGE, that is an immigration status. Okay, so that is not a visa. So you should, if you already have SIDGE, you should not be impacted by the travel ban. Okay. Those who are applying or think they might be eligible for SIDGE, yes, I would say probably they're going to be impacted by the travel ban. But right now, the only thing we can definitely answer, I think, is those with SIDGE, are not going to be impacted. Go ahead, Eleanor.
Well, in and of itself, SIDGE is not an immigrant status, right? You're going to have to get permanent residence, and once you obtain permanent residence, then, as Sean said, you're not subject to the travel ban.
Alrighty, once again, Eleanor, can part-time staff or adjunct faculty request a consultation from you?
Yes, they can. Yes.
Alrighty. If you're a citizen of a country that isn't restricted or partially restricted from the travel ban, Sean, but you're employed in a country that is, would this situation affect your eligibility if a family member is petitioning for you? You want me to break it down?
Yeah, no, I understand the question. I don't think it should be. If you are a citizen of a country that doesn't have the restriction, where you're employed generally won't be considered in the adjustment application or the petition. So I think you should be fine.
I agree.
Alrighty, Eleanor. When you're consulting with someone, are you connecting them to social services as well as community resources?
Yes, we're trying to do that as well.
All right, folks, while we are recording this presentation, we are going to crop it down. We are going to post it on our website. The website is cuny.edu/CIAP. So please do give us a few days to crop it and post it for public consumption. Cynthia, just a recap on the resources that are available for students and faculty that you have posted on your website, just to go over again, and the website that people can view for this.
Yeah, so folks can visit that information at cuny.edu/immigrant. It's information that you don't have to be CUNY affiliated to access any of those resources, or to reach out to our campuses and my office to inquire on some information. But that's information that's specifically for students and for staff and educators. Anything from like, what are some things to keep in mind as an undocumented student applying to CUNY, to how can I better support my students in my classroom who I work with, who I support at our CUNY campuses.
Cynthia, staying with you, just to clarify and distinguish between the DREAM Act and the DREAM.US scholarship, there's a question on what's the difference between both.
Would love to clarify that. So the New York State DREAM Act, also known as the Jose Peralta New York State DREAM Act, it's a state-based financial aid. So similar to FAFSA, where FAFSA is federal, but this is state, meaning that it's not a scholarship, it's a grant that is being provided by the state of New York. That's through legislation. I mentioned the eligibility. You can receive up to $5,000 per semester, I believe. But it is an application process. And so folks should submit the New York State DREAM Act if they're eligible, and then they'll be able to submit access for TAP and Excelsior through that same website. The DREAM US scholarship is a privately funded scholarship. It's not, CUNY didn't create it. It was created by a separate private space that is also providing that scholarship across the country. So several other universities also benefit from it. And so the biggest difference is being DREAM US is a private scholarship. New York State DREAM Act is a state-funded grant.
Alrighty. There's a question on the situation in California. I'm thinking that the person is asking about law enforcement being sent to California, specifically LA, and whether or not this is likely to happen in New York. Not sure if anyone wants to tackle that. Predictions.
Well, who's going to stop him? That's that's what's going on right now. It's awful. I don't want to get into the politics of this current administration here in New York City, but right now, who's going to stop them? Right?
I think what I'll add too is I think a lot of folks learned from what's happening in California and the resources that have been developed by folks on the ground in California. What I recommend is to get connected to similar spaces that are developing either community-based trainings, rapid response networks, even just like materials and educational materials for anyone who's worried about this, especially folks without status, but also US citizens who want to help, right, and have the privilege to help. So I recommend getting connected with those spaces. Some of them are very localized, community-based. Others are citywide, others are state, others are national. So they're available on Instagram, they're available on different websites, and often they can connect you to like immediate information in case there's presence in your neighborhood or in your community, or they can just connect you with more resources and trainings if you want to help. I know what I'll just say very quickly is I know our union, so CUNY PSC Union, does a lot of observation trainings to go to Federal Plaza and observe what is happening to at least prevent the kidnappings that are going on in Federal Plaza. So if you're a CUNY employee interested in getting involved in that, PSC Union might be the first place to start.
I will also give a plug for the New York Immigration Coalition is a great resource, as well as the New York State Office for New Americans, and in the city, the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Affairs. So if you're looking to get connected or join one of these groups that Cynthia mentioned, you can start there as a resource. Alrighty, this is a complicated question, and I'm going to put it out there because we've actually gotten this question asked a lot. If a person makes the decision that they would like to self-deport, Eleanor, what resources can you provide to that individual, or what advice is you giving to that person?
I think
generally,
if a person decides to self-deport, they need to know the ramifications of their actions, what that means exactly. because there's no guarantee that you're coming back. But if you want to self-deport, there's a CB1 app, and there's a promise of $1,000 when you self-deport. But I would not make that decision lightly. I think you need to speak to experienced immigration attorney to figure out exactly what that means.
All right.
What I can,
Go ahead,
what I
Cynthia.
can also, yeah, what I can also add to that is, I know as folks are like deciding if this is the safest and best route for them, there's like spaces, nonprofit groups that have been having this conversation for a long time. So I recommend the New York State Youth Leadership Council. They have on their website conversations called Beyond the US, where they hosted several people who have decided to self-deport. This was like during the first Trump administration, even during the Biden administration, that talk a little bit about how maybe things that they wish they would have known in order to prepare. There's also a new space called New Comienzos, and it is on Instagram under that same name, that is of folks who have self-deported. And so they talk a little bit more about what they navigated through that process, so folks can really make an informed decision about what's the best route for them. I know for some folks, like self-deporting is also not safe, right? They may be returning to a country that is further criminalizing them for various identities that they may hold. So those, both of those resources that I mentioned include individuals in those situations that have been able to find a pathway to citizenship in another country.
Yeah, I'd like to also add that those who are in a considering self-deportation may be particularly vulnerable to scams from agencies or not from agencies, from unlicensed consultants like notarios or those holding themselves out as legal service providers. Please, we want to just stress everybody to make sure you're getting your advice from a qualified and trustworthy source, somebody who's an immigration attorney or a licensed a paralegal or a DOJ accredited representative. Make sure it's somebody who is qualified.
There is a question on law enforcement coming to campuses that I'm going to answer. There is a website that is CUNY Immigrant Resources that is lifted up. As Maite mentioned, the Immigrant Resource Working Group has clarified what the university's protocol is for any law enforcement who's coming to a CUNY campus or requesting student data. Please make sure that you check that out. It has detailed information. Also, a number of the CUNY campuses have on their websites different protocols and where to contact someone or who to contact in the event that there is any kind of law enforcement around college campuses, who to report this to and what protocols are in place. All righty. Cynthia, the website for the DREAM Act, there's a question on providing that website on how to apply for the DREAM Act, the scholarship. And let's see, when did it pass and where can I get more information about the New York State DREAM Act?
Yes, so the New York State DREAM Act passed in 2019. It just as a little quick background for fun is it was initially founded and campaigns for it started in 2001, and there was a lot of hesitancy to pass it and to sign it from the Cuomo administration at the time. However, it did pass in 2019. The information available for it, either through our website that has some one-pagers on like tips on how to navigate this, is cuny.edu/NYSDA. So the abbreviation for New York State DREAM Act. However, HESC, which is the Higher Education Services Corporation that manages the New York State DREAM Act, also has their website where you can apply directly. They also have a step-by-step guide translated in several languages. And if you go to hesc.ny.gov /apply to, hold on, I'm looking it up here, /applying.aid/NYS-New York DREAM Act, sorry. An easier way to do it is just Google New York State DREAM Act, Jose Peralta. And then what you should be able, the first website should be the HESC website to apply for it. However, you can also reach out to our financial aid offices at any of our campuses. They have been trained on this information consistently and should be at the very least able to refer you to the direct website. Our immigrant liaisons that I mentioned that are on cuny.edu/immigrant. Some of them if you look at a specific campus you're interested in that you're currently attending, some of them are financial aid specialists. And so that's the individual you want to reach out to because they have 100% been trained, at least on the New York State DREAM Act.
All righty. There is a question regarding bonds, but I just want to give some clarifying details because I don't think I mentioned this at the start. So the services that are provided under the CUNY Immigration Assistance Project is not university funded. We are funded by two foundations, the Robin Hood Foundation and the Carol and Milton Petrie Foundation. So there is no funding that is available to cover bonds for student if a person is detained. The service that we're providing is for legal resources and information up to the point of Eleanor is going to be helping folks to see if the student can be released. But this does not cover the cost of the bond. Eleanor, anything on that?
No, you're correct, Monique.
All righty. Can a CUNY alum who also obtained his master's degree in a different state be eligible for admission at CUNY? Cynthia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For someone who obtained a degree in another country was the question, right?
A different state.
A different state. We just want to be, certainly CUNY will admit anyone, regardless of what other state they attended, what immigration status they have. What you might want to double check is whether, depending on your immigration status, whether you qualify for in-state tuition or whether you'll qualify for any kind of additional financial aid, whether a private scholarship or something by the state. And that may be key to figuring out whether CUNY is the best option in order to fund your education fully.
All righty. Just to clarify another question that's regarding the services under this program and whether or not we are able to request WebEx appearances on behalf of immigrants who are called, who has a court hearing or USCIS interview, Eleanor. Does that fall under your umbrella?
No, unfortunately, it does not. It doesn't, unfortunately, it does not. I'm sorry, you said a WebEx?
Yeah, if a person has a court appearance and they would like to, they're scared of going into USCIS, they want to appear virtually.
We can give some advice on how to do that, but we cannot appear on your behalf.
Yes. So just to go over again, folks, this is a pro se legal assistance program. The attorneys who are going to be providing consultations to you and helping you navigate the immigration landscape right now are not providing full or partial representation. They're providing information and resources. So if you do need to be represented in your immigration case, we are going to give you resources that are available to you, whether it's another nonprofit within New York City, an agency within New York State that is helping folks who are detained, or we will guide you to the American Immigration Lawyers website for you to select an attorney who can represent you. That is all that we have in the questions so far, but Cynthia, I will let you go.
Thank you. I did see a question asking, can ICE come to CUNY school grounds and take undocumented students? Of course, welcome the lawyers to answer, but what I wanted to share was we do have a website called cuny.edu/immigration info. So I'm adding that to that question. If folks wanted to look at the answered questions and see the website. But that does have information on our policy on federal agents entering any of our CUNY campuses. They, as with any other public but also and private space, a warrant has to be presented, and it has to be a valid warrant in order for any federal agent to enter our campuses, specifically to inquire about information, to pick up someone. We have informed the campuses that public safety is the first line of anyone entering our campuses. And so they must connect with the general counsel at their campus, our centralized general counsel, in order for them to verify the warrant, and then that decision can be made by those entities. But public safety would not be making that decision. Anyone who's not a lawyer would not be making that decision. But that policy still stands and has been reiterated both in that website and to our campus presidents, VPs, and leadership.
Alrighty, Eleanor, pulling this one, even though it was answered, are consultations available only in person or virtually as well?
Both virtually and in person.
Alrighty, in person where?
In person at the moment at Queens College and LaGuardia.
Alrighty,
And then I believe at our central office, I believe we'll be offering consultations in the evenings, in some evenings.
Yeah.
Our central office is on 57th and 11th.
alrighty. There are some questions about the general scope of services for CUNY citizenship now that is outside of this rapid response. If you go to our website, we list out all of the areas that we cover. So whether it's citizenship, a certificate of citizenship, green card renewals, applications, work authorization, DACA, TPS, and we do have services that are only available to the CUNY community. We all have that all listed on our website. I see no other questions that is relevant now. So I'm just going to give you guys some time to wrap up with closing remarks, anything that you may have missed in your presentation that you want to just share now. Cynthia, I saw that you wanted to go first.
No, I didn't. I was going to answer your question. I saw, but I'm looking up the answer for it.
Alrighty.
I can
Any
go first.
consultation? Wait, questions are still coming in. Any
Okay.
consultations in person in the Bronx? Right now, the answer for that is no. We only have one attorney and we're bringing on a part-time attorney. So remote services are available to anyone. And Eleanor has service days that she's at LaGuardia Community College and Queens College. So when you do get a call back from us, you will get asked, where you want to get these services. The thing is, depending on the nature of your situation. So if you have something that is very urgent, Eleanor is going to give you a call right back, or you will be scheduled for an hour consult with her to go through your immigration history and what is your immigration posture and what legal support we can offer to you. Alrighty, so Eleanor, wrapping up.
Yeah, I just want to urge everybody to please contact us. We want to help as many people in the CUNY community as we can, so please contact us.
Alrighty, Sean.
Yeah, outside of the project itself, I just want to let everybody know that CUNY Citizenship now does, as Monique mentioned, provide a wide array of consultations and family immigration services. So please contact us if you have any questions on your particular case. And if you are a candidate for CIAP, we will turn you over to that program. So feel free to contact us.
All right, folks, we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. As I mentioned before, we are going to
Monique,
cut
sorry.
Can I provide
Sorry, Cynthia. Go on.
It's okay. And before I do that, just to answer a question that I also saw, that some faculty require students to have cameras on. Is this practice problematic in our current climate? With regards to kind of concerns about students in precarious immigration statuses being tracked virtually, I wasn't able to find the exact answer that I received from a cybersecurity tech person and organization. But any kind of information that could be connected to a student would still require any kind like paperwork, either FOIA, FOIL, or warrants in order to access. So there's still that additional protection of barrier. And so long as students aren't being forced to out themselves in a virtual platform, the concern or the threat isn't It isn't anything beyond what folks are already experiencing from just like existing and navigating in this country, in this current political climate. But short of that, same as everyone here, please feel free to reach out to either my office, the centers that I mentioned, the initiatives I mentioned, as well as if you don't see any of these services being provided at your campus, always encourage folks to reach out to spaces in your campus leadership to inquire of how these types of resources, centers, and initiatives can be built in your spaces as well to support your students.
Alrighty, last question. So for folks who are undocumented, there's been a number of questions on how to legalize your status. This is a time for you to connect with Eleanor. You may not have something right now, but Eleanor will go through your immigration history. Maybe there's something that you're not aware of that she can dive deeper into. Guys, thank you all so much. I know this was very short notice put together, trying to get ahead of all of the misinformation that has been circling around. These webinars are scheduled to happen on a monthly basis. We will post on the website, which is cuny.edu/CIAP. when the next webinar will be scheduled. We hope to host it in October, but we do not have a date as yet. So please make sure that you check the website for ongoing information updates. Outside of the CIAP website, on the CUNY.Citizenship Now website, we do try to keep up to date on the legal updates that are happening that are relevant to the CUNY community. So you can check out that website as well. And with that, folks, I am going to close this webinar. Again, we just want to thank everyone for staying with us for this hour. We truly appreciate the support that we've gotten from the university as well as the private funders who have stepped up in this time of crisis for our CUNY community. And without their funding, we would not be able to provide these services. So thank you all and see you next month.